Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 4, Chapter 9, and text 6. We are reading the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada to text 6. That Dhruva Maharaj, he's gotten self-realization. He's seeing the Lord face to face, and the Lord is touched the conch shell on the head of Dhruva Maharaj, and now Dhruva Maharaj is going to offer suitable prayers to the Lord, the glorification of the Lord. Therefore, when Dhruva Maharaj found this difference within himself, he could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. This is the way of the parampara. This is the way of the disciplic succession. We are receiving the mercy of the Lord through the disciplic succession, through the spiritual master. This is the process of bhakti. In bhakti, the devotee is completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord and of the previous acharyas. He's not puffed up with the false ego that I can do it myself. No, but he is always dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And that's why it's called the descending process. Descending, the mercy is coming from Krishna to Brahmaji, to Narad, to Vyasadev, like that. It's coming. And so Dhruva Maharaj also received the mercy of the Lord by the grace of Narad Muni. He offered obeisances to the Lord with great respect and reverence, completely understanding that the Lord's favor was upon him. This spirit, so he's not so here it shows the gratitude, the humility, means he's completely given up his false ego. When we have the false ego, we feel, yes, I can do it by myself. Who is God? I can do it by myself, leave God aside. But here, he's completely humble. He's given up his false ego. He's understanding that it's all because of the mercy of the Lord. The spiritual enlightenment of Dhruva Maharaj's senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord. So pure devotee, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also that the pure devotee, the Mahatma, is under the control of the spiritual energy, not under the control of material energy. He's directly under the shelter of spiritual energy, internal potency. In this verse, therefore, the word Swadhamna means by spiritual energy. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of the spiritual energy of the Lord. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is first addressed to the spiritual energy of the Lord, Hare. This spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. So the Hare Krishna mantra, we are calling out to Hare, Mother Hara. And the vocative, Srila Prabhupada explains, this Hare is Srimati Radharani, the internal energy of the Lord. So it is a call to her, O Mother Hara, please engage me in the service of Father Krishna. So it's completely spiritual, it's completely under the jurisdiction of the spiritual energy. We may say, oh, but I'm chanting and I don't feel it. Well, because we are chanting with offenses. We may be chanting with offenses, we may be chanting not on the pure platform. But sure enough, we continue to chant, and we will be able to feel the spiritual potency. So it's a call to Mother Hara, call to the internal energy of the Lord, call to the spiritual energy of the Lord to engage us in the service of Krishna. So we can see that we cannot approach Krishna directly. It's always to approach the male, we need to go through his consort. Like if we want to appeal to the husband, then we go through the wife. Women are more compassionate by nature. So this is a call to Madhara, to appeal to the compassionate nature. When a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called Sevon Mukha. At that time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. So, bhakti is completely under the jurisdiction of the internal energy of the Lord, not under the material energy. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. Any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. Because if we are going to use our mind, our imagination, then it's still material. No? We are not able to properly glorify the Lord. Only when we hear about the Lord, only when we hear the prayers of the previous acharyas, can we understand how to glorify the Lord. We simply repeat those prayers. But the pure devotee, Krishna reveals himself to the pure devotee. When one is, so we can see it's not within the jurisdiction of the modes of nature. It's not uh, in the influenced by goodness, passion, or ignorance. So that's why it's on the transcendental platform, spiritual platform. This is the pure devotee. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. At that time, his hands, legs, ears, tongue, mind, genitals, everything engage in the service of the Lord. So, this is a liberated person. He's completely understood his position as eternal servant of Krishna. And so the spiritual senses are awakened. And the spiritual senses always active. Senses are always active. And what do the spiritual senses do? They're always serving in the service of the Lord. Always. So it's not artificial. We can see it's not artificial imposition, as Srila Prabhupada would say, because we do have a spiritual body, which is covered by this gross material body right now. Our spiritual body, our spiritual senses are sleeping. We simply have to awaken it by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. This process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti or devotional service. So, engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Rochyate. So, what happens at our stage is our senses get purified. And once the senses are purified, then the spiritual senses are awakened. So, bhakti continues. It's not that, oh, I'm going to engage in bhakti to purify my senses, and then after that, I'm going to become God myself, and I'm going to chant my name. My name is the holy name. No, no, that's the misconception. Uh, Bhakti continues. In fact, pure devotional service begins from the point of liberation. As we are saying, this is a pure devotee. He's liberated. He's awakened his spiritual senses. And so he's engaging in the service of the Lord, in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So Krishna says that bhakti begins from the liberated platform. Brahmabhuta prasanatma na sochati na kamshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. He says that from the point of liberation can one engage in pure devotional service. And this is what we are practically seeing in this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and Shastra. And after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. So this is the Vaidhi Bhakti, the Sadhana Bhakti, engaging we may not want to engage in devotional service. We may not want to hear or chant or worship the deity, or whatever the regulative principles are, but we do it because it's the order of the spiritual master, it's the order of the Shastras. That is the Vedic Bhakti. And by doing that, gradually what happens? The senses get purified. Our materially contaminated senses get purified. Then comes a point of realization. The soul, the living entity, realizes his true position as eternal servant of Krishna. And then continues engages in bhakti. At that time, it is pure devotional service. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization, they are engaged in spiritual understanding. So a mechanical way, how we can see, is like a child. He imitates, no? Child may not understand, but he imitates the father. So he's still doing the same thing, but maybe he does not understand it. Similarly, we also engaging in bhakti. We don't understand it, but we still continue. Why? Because there will come a point where we will get purified. The realization will come in, and then can engage in uh, pure devotional service. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Ekastvam eva Bhagavan idam atma-shaktya.
Ekastam eva Bhagavan idam atmasakya
Maya khaya yoruganaya mahadadi ashesham.
Maya kayo gunana gunaya mahad adi shisham
Shisham.
Shrishtvānuvishya purushastadasat guneshu.
Shrishtvānuvishya purushastat asat gunishu
Nāneva dārushu vibhavasu vibhasi.
Nanarusu vibhavasu vibhasi.
My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. And after creation, you enter within the material world as the Supersoul. You're the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire, entering into wood of different shapes, burns brilliantly in different varieties. Oh wow. So Dhruv Maharaj now he's understood the position of the Lord. And that's the reason he's only 5 years old, but he's understood the position of Krishna. He's saying you are the Supreme One, but you have these different energies. And that's the reason you're appearing different in the spiritual world and in the material world. And this material world, how are you creating it? By your external potency. And after this creation, after you create the material world, you're entering into every atom of the material world as the super soul, as in the heart of every living entity as the Paramatma. So you are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation. So there are these three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These three, when we multiply 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 81, and like this we keep on multiplying, it will come to 8,400,000. That's the reason there are 8,400,000 species of life, depending on the different combination and permutation of these three modes of nature. How each of us is differently influenced, to what degree one is influenced by goodness, passion, and ignorance. And so we each are living entities, we each are souls. But because of this modes, how we are covered differently by the modes, based on our desire, based on our karma, we are getting these different bodies. And so this is what he's saying, that you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire, entering into wood of different shapes, burns brilliantly in different varieties. The fire is the same. It's the same fire. The wood may be different. So the living entities, each of us is living entities. Based on these different influences of the modes of nature, we take on these different bodies. When we say living entities the same, doesn't mean you and me. Qualitatively, we are the same, but each of us is individual. We each of us have an individuality, which is never lost. The individuality is never lost. Someone may say, oh, individuality means false ego. And once you give up the false ego, then you realize you're nothing or you realize you're God. No, it's different. That means we are putting the individuality as material. But the individuality, the consciousness is for the soul, not for the body. It's not false ego. Right now, yes, we are influenced by the false ego, thinking that I am the body. But what's the correct ego? I am spirit soul. So that I am remains. I am spirit soul. Dhruva Maharaj realized that the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, acts through his different energies, not that he becomes void or impersonal and thus becomes all-pervading. So many people think that, oh, God has made this material world, so God does not exist anymore. Like you take a piece of paper and you cut it up, and so the original piece is not there and only the pieces are there. No, Krishna is not like that. He's not a piece of paper. Krishna is supreme conscious. He's the absolute truth. He has these different energies by which he expands. That's why he's called omnipotent. The Mayavadi philosopher thinks that the absolute truth, being spread throughout the cosmic manifestation, has no personal form. But here Dhruva Maharaj, upon realization of the way the conclusion says, you are spread all over the cosmic manifestation by your energy. So this is the correct understanding of the Vedas. Not that, oh, because God is spread everywhere, so he has no form. Because he's omnipresent, he has no form. No, he's present everywhere by his energies, and he has a transcendental form. So Dhruva Maharaj is understanding this. This energy is basically spiritual because it acts in the material world temporarily. It is called Maya or illusory energy. So Krishna's energy, well, from Krishna's point of view, it's his energy. But what happens is, because we don't want to see Krishna, so this same energy acts as a curtain to cover our vision of Krishna. So it's the same. Srimati Radharani, she is the origin of all energies. Durga Devi is the personification of material energy. Where does she come from? She also comes from Radharani. Because the original energy is one, the spiritual energy. But because we don't want to accept Krishna, we want to forget Krishna, this same energy covers our vision and becomes the material energy. Prabhupada would explain that this energy which is coming from the powerhouse, it gives power to our heaters and as well as power to our air conditioners. Both, the energy is the same. It's not that it's a different energy, no, but it's just a function. How we are using it, that's different. So from Krishna's point of view, it's the same. So temporarily in this material world, we have this material energy, Maya. In other words, for everyone but the devotees, the Lord's energy acts as external energy. So it's the same. If we want to forget Krishna, Krishna's energy helps us forget him. Then she is Maya Devi. We want to remember Krishna, we want to come towards Krishna. Krishna's energy helps us to come towards Krishna. That is spiritual energy. Dhruva Maharaj could understand this fact very nicely, and he could understand also that the energy and the energetic are one and the same. The energy cannot be separated from the energetic. Now we may say, oh, see, I know now, finally, here it said, energy and energetic are one and the same. So I am God, actually. Well, the thing is, we are parts and parcels of God. We are energy of God. So we are part and parcel of God. Prabhupada would give the example of the sun and sunshine. The sun planet, the total heat and fire in the sun planet, we could not compare it to one molecule of the sunshine. So in this way, we can understand Krishna is like the sun planet. And then we are the living entity, the Jivatma, is like one molecule of sunshine. So the heat and fire or the potency of Krishna is so great. He is unlimited, whereas we are tiny, tiny. So one molecule of sunshine also has heat and fire, but it is insignificant compared to the entire sun planet. But wherever there is sun, there has to be sunshine. Otherwise there is no meaning to the sun. And wherever there's sunshine, we understand the sun is there. This is the relationship. So where we, the living entities, the material energy, the spiritual energy, we are all energies of Krishna. So to understand that Krishna is the energetic and we are all his energies. The identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the feature of Paramatma or Supersoul is admitted herein. His original spiritual energy enlivens the material energy, and thus the dead body appears to have life force. Why does this universe appears to be living? It is made up of dead matter, earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. All these are dead matters. It has no life in it. Why does this universe appear to be alive? It's because the Paramatma has entered into every atom of the universe, each and every atom. This body is made of the same elements: earth, water, air, fire, earth, water, fire, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Why does this body that we are in appear to be living? It's because we, the soul and the super soul, are inside this body. As soon as the super soul and the soul leaves the body is dead. It's useless. Voidists, philosophers think that under certain material conditions, the symptoms of life occur in the material body. But the fact is that the material body cannot act on its own. A dead body cannot move. It's only because the soul is there, the super soul is there. That's the reason the body is moving and appearing to be alive. We are thinking we are the body, and it's appearing to be alive because the soul is there. The soul is there inside the body, and the super soul is sitting next to us in the body. Even a machine needs separate energy, electricity, steam, etc. It is stated in this verse that the material energy acts in varieties of material bodies, just as fire burns differently in different wood according to the size and quality of the wood. In the case of devotees, the same energy is transformed into spiritual energy. This is possible because the energy is originally spiritual, not material. So based on our desire, Krishna employs his energy. We want to forget Krishna. This Krishna's energy helps us forget him. We want to understand Krishna. We want to come closer to Krishna. We want to love Krishna. Then the same energy helps us to do that. As it is said, Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta, the original energy inspires a devotee, and thus he engages all his bodily limbs in the service of the Lord. The same energy as external potency engages the ordinary non-devotees in material activities for sense enjoyment. We should mark the difference between Maya and Swadharma. For devotees, the Swadharma acts, whereas in the case of non-devotees, Maya energy acts. So, based on our choice, we want to be in the shelter of external energy, or we want to be based under the shelter of spiritual energy. The choice is ours. Krishna is very kind. He fulfills all our desires. What we want, he gives us. Is that
So
okay?
Swadam is the spiritual energy, is it? What is
Yes.
Swadam? Spiritual.
Swadam, and the exact is the Swadam, is the spiritual energy. We were reading ahead also, right? Swadam spiritual. Did we read it in this verse or in the previous? Can't remember now.
Maybe in the previous, yeah. Okay. So because Maya is the inferior, the material energy. This is the spiritual.
Maya is the, yeah.
Right?
She helps us forget Krishna. In this verse, therefore, the word Swadhamna means spiritual energy. So Swadham is the spiritual energy and Maya is the material energy. Yeah, and the choice is ours. What do we want?
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening and enjoying. And Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.